This is Joshua Hart here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by Gareth A Davies as per usual. Gareth, Monday evening, how is everything, mate?
Very good, thank you. Looking forward to a great week, maybe a historic week with Derek Chisora. Well, they're calling it the last dance, but I don't think it will be against Otto Wallin in Manchester. Looking forward to that. Just spent a morning with Sean Porter this morning for Talk Sports on my life in boxing. It was fascinating. He was there with us in the studio. Um, really looking forward to the episode airing. And now that Talk Sport is a 24-hour TV channel. I think it'll air very well, and I think it'll be well received by the fans. He's a fascinating guy, Showtime Sean Porter.
Well, sounds very exciting. Let's dive straight into everything. We'll start off by just looking at the weekend just gone. Adam Azim captured the IBO super lightweight world title in brilliant style and a dominant display against Sergey Lipinets. What did you make of his performance?
Well, I think that the man, rather than the title, was the great testing ground for him on Saturday night. And I thought he showed a toughness, a speed, a resilience, and a maturity that grew from the performance against O'Hara Davis. Um, his stock rose inordinately as well. I mean, I would have put him just behind Dalton Smith before that performance. We talked about it, but I think he's on equal footing now. Obviously, his managers and trainers, the McGuigans, Barry and Shane, I thought they were very pointed in their comments and pretty accurate that he could stand up right now to Jose Valenzuela, to Alberto Puello. Obviously, I think Puello is fighting Sandor Martin very soon. So, they're making the comparisons with Dalton Smith after his performance the week before. And he stands up very well. I mean, the prospect of those two meeting is now terrific. I think Adam Azim is coming on in leaps and bounds. Obviously, he also showed, even though people have critiqued the low blow, that he's prepared to just put anything in there to make himself win. I thought it was a great performance against a guy, if you think. I know he's 35, but he was pretty decent against Mikey Garcia back in the day, and Boots Ennis put him away in seven. I recall, I think it was, and he's put him away in nine. So everything stacks up from Adam Azim now. He's going from strength to strength, and I thought it was a fine performance.
So as of recording this, I've just wrapped up Seconds Out Live with my colleague Eamon Connor. We were talking about this situation that we're in that 140 division, especially with Dalton Smith and Adam Azim, and a lot of talk about whether the two should fight next. And in my opinion, I think it's only right we let them go down their separate paths right now, especially with Dalton Smith being mandatory for the WBC title and Adam Azim capturing the IBO. Would you like to see them fight next, or let them go
Yeah,
down their separate paths?
I think so. I mean, if you look at, I was looking here at junior welterweight. Um, I think you can say at the moment Tio Lopez is the number one. Um, Obviously, Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia have got to be in the picture there as well. Alberto Puello, you can put in the top three or four. Valenzuela's right up there. Richardson, Hitchens. I think if you look at that division, and really, I think for me, I think I'm just going to pull up the entire um, the divisions. Junior welterweight. I've got the champions there. Those are the champions. But if you look at the division overall, um, it's that there are lots of different fights for them. The problem is it feels like, and this was hinted at by Shane McGuigan at the weekend, how many people can those two get into an arena at the moment? What's the resonance of them nationally? Neither is a big star nationally yet. Is it worth waiting for that to be a bigger money fight for both of them that they both deserve? And I think that'll be in their thinking, in their calculations, as they press forward. It's starting to get reminiscent of George Groves and James DeGale all those years ago at super middleweight. They sold out the O2 Arena. It was a really big night. Obviously, George came away, just pipped James DeGale, and they both went on to be world champions. But I think times have changed. And I think they are going to go their own routes for a little while, unless they get picked up by a Riyadh season card and they earn well from it. You wonder what they feel is good earnings at the moment. Is it sharing 1 million? Is that big enough for them for this kind of fight at the moment? Um, they're going to meet. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I just hope they both meet when they're both undefeated or in the prime of their careers. I think they're still both growing. I don't know if they're in their prime yet, but as long as we get them in their prime, I think it will be a massive event. And right now, after that performance, I think the pendulum swings again for Adam Azim, that there might have been a few question marks before the Lipinets fight, but I don't think there are now.
Fair enough. Moving away from that, you mentioned previously that this is the last dance this weekend. We come to an end of an era as Derek Chisora steps into the ring for the final time on British soil, as we believe. First of all, what do you make of the matchup and the choice of opponent in Otto Wallin?
Well, Valin's not a massive puncher, but he's tricky and he's a southpaw. Derek Chisora's not being fed to the wolves, but he's in the top 10, especially after his victory over, certainly with some of the sanctioning bodies, with his victory over Joe Joyce. He's in his 40s now. This is his 49th fight. There's a big test for him against Otto Wallin, but he's up for it. And I think it's not the last dance; it's the penultimate last dance. I think because he does want to have a 50th fight again, be that against Deontay Wilder or Dillian White or one of the other guys that in the division right now. I don't think he'll be a top 5 or top 8 opponent, all the way down to the likes of Kabayel and Zhang and Joshua and these guys. I don't think he'll ever fight Joshua, but I think it's a fun fight. And I spent some time with Derek last week. I want to say it was Wednesday or Thursday in the bathhouse in London. He was on great form. He was reminiscing about his career. It's been an amazing career. There's been twists and turns. He's a colourful, folkloric figure. He's gone from villain to cult hero. And I think he carries that status well at the moment. He knows how to talk to the media. He gives all of us a story. I'm penning a big interview with him for the Telegraph this week, and I'll be up there covering it live for Talk Sport, I think from Thursday. So really looking forward to it this weekend. I also think he wins. I just think he's got a tenacity and an obduracy that'll carry him through. And he knows he wants 50 fights. Win, lose or draw, though, he's become an icon in British or folklore figure, I think, for British fans. When you think all the way back to 13 years ago and the fight with Vitaly Klitschko on the night he also fought David Haye in the press room. I was there that night in the press room, and Haye made a hasty exit from Germany, and Derek had to be interviewed by the police in the morning. And then his fight with David. I mean, who picks on Vitaly Klitschko and goes 12 rounds with him and then has a fight gets out of his chair at the press conference, have a scrap with David Haye in the media room. Then they have a big fight at Upton Park in front of 18,000 people at the West Ham ground. Then he fights Tyson Fury 3 times, Dillian White twice, Joseph Parker twice. I mean, he's a walk. Alexander Usyk, Kubrat Pulev, all these guys, Joe Joyce. He's a walking who's who. No, he's not fighting the youngsters, but man, that guy has got no quit in him, even though he's emotionally going to have to quit at some point this year.
Obviously, a lot of talk obviously about this name and the last dance. Do you feel, depending on how this weekend goes, that this could be the last dance completely? Because as it stands, this is the last dance in the UK, set for obviously, and Derek, what he wants is to fight in Africa for that 50th and final fight.
Yeah, or in Riyadh if there's more money, or in a sellout arena somewhere in the UK if that works. Listen, he's a money weight fighter as he calls himself now, but I think it's been hard to get fights off the ground in Africa for one reason and another, and there's talk about it all the time. There's talk about Martin Bakole against Anthony Joshua in Africa at the moment, coming out from Bakole's camp, but I haven't heard a word from Joshua on this, and my understanding is that it's what Bakole wants rather than what's being talked about in the background or anything having been signed. I think Bakole is probably a step too far for Chisora, in my view, at this stage. Yeah, I mean, I think if all goes well for Derek on Saturday night, it'll be renamed the penultimate dance.
Obviously, you mentioned Anthony Joshua versus Martin Bakole, and according to Bakole and Ben Shalom, that it is signed and set for Congo at some stage this year. Um, Obviously, you also mentioned that you've not heard anything, and this could just be Bakole saying it. Do you think this could be a case of Bakole trying to speak it into existence to get some negotiations started?
Yeah, I think so. I think Bakole is speaking it into existence to get negotiations started. I checked in with Anthony Joshua's people, some of them today, and they said they haven't had a discussion about that yet. So I'm going to go with the fact that Bakole is a fight he wants. It's being teased out there. It's being dangled for Anthony Joshua, and I don't think he's bitten yet.
Do you think he will bite, and we will
No,
see? Not
and
not
not unless we hear nothing from Fury for the next couple of months. It's a viable option. It's a very tough option. It's one that Joshua can win, and it's one that could earn him massive amounts of money. But it's a very dangerous fight if he's got Tyson Fury in the summer as well. If that fight does go ahead,
so even with Tyson Fury retired, as you say, um, do you feel that he still holds a lot of weight in this situation that we're in right now, as none of us are quite sure what he's really doing?
well, I mean, Anthony Joshua's on record over the Christmas and New Year holidays as saying that he wants Tyson Fury this year in a big fight, and he wants a rematch with Daniel Dubois. So those are the fights that he's laid down. He's thumped down on the table and said, "This is what I want this year," and that's probably his wish list. I don't think Martin Bakole was there on the wish list when he talked about it.
Do you think if this Tyson Fury fight isn't to materialise for this summer, AJ is going to want to continue with his career and stay active? Do you think Bakole is that name that should be at the top of the list in order to catapult him into a world title shot?
Well, I think you've kind of already alluded to it. Really, the fact he's talking it into existence. He's making options available. Bakole and saying, "I want to fight Joshua. Let's do a fight in the Congo. Let's go back to that stadium that's now been renamed the Muhammad Ali George Foreman Stadium. Let's make it special. Just over 50 years past the Rumble in the Jungle in 1974. Let's get it on. Let's get it on 51 years later." So I think moves are being made. Joshua was very popular with Turkey Al Sheikh, so it wouldn't surprise me if Turkey Al Sheikh got behind that fight if they wanted to do a fight in Africa and teased it over the line. But I don't think we're anywhere near it yet.
Who would you like to see Anthony Joshua face next in an ideal world if it isn't?
Tyson Fury in the summer.
Is that the only option you think there is to come
That's
to?
who I'd like him to fight next. Tyson Fury in the summer. But I don't think either man is near that fight. And as we keep hearing from both camps, that's not being talked about at the moment. It's not being discussed because Fury's happy in abeyance with his career in abeyance right now.
Do you think we need to come to a stage where we're just going to have to accept that he is retired and us as fans, journalists, we just need to move on and look at how this division plays out without a Tyson Fury?
As we've discussed before, you have to treat his perception as reality that he has retired. It's there sitting on the shelf. It can change any day. It can change when he gets bored of being retired and away from the sport. And as Derek Chisora said last week, no, let him have a rest. Let him go and get stoned. All these kind of things he was joking about. Go and have a smoke. Go and get stoned. Go. I don't think Tyson Fury is a toker. But he's kind of alluding to the fact that, or suggesting that, go and enjoy yourself away from the sport for a while. Enjoy your family. You've had a long, hard career. You've got generational wealth in the bank. So, all we're doing, as I know you want to, all we're doing is speculating on the future, and we don't know right now what's going to transpire. We may never see him in a ring again. Just to throw across the other side of the pond, I don't know if you're going to ask me about the light heavyweights, but I thought that was a fascinating fight over there, talking about fights that may or may not happen. I think Saul Canelo Alvarez is going to fight Terence Crawford. I think that fight will come to fruition. And I thought we saw two very, very good light heavyweights on Saturday night. It was a great performance by Benavidez. Um, David Morrell was brilliant as well. It was so watchable. I watched it live at 5 in the morning here. I don't know if you did, but because I really wanted to stay up for it. I'd just come back from BYB. I'd driven back from Cardiff, where I'd been involved with the BYB bare knuckle. Brilliant victory for a guy called Barry Jones, who's bare knuckle royalty. He had an amazing knockout of Gregoris Cisneros, and I was buzzing from that. And there's a kid called Callum Skane that came through at super welterweight who's going to be a big star. He's like the Nazim Hamid of bare knuckle. And I had the privilege of interviewing them all in the ring afterwards, or the Trigon, this tiny arena. I was still buzzing at 3 a.m. when I got home, a long drive home. And I watched Morrell and Benavidez live, and I still think Canelo could be a big handful for Benavidez. I think Morrell is a big man and very resilient. I think Canelo may have that fight down the line with Benavidez, but my feeling is the Beterbiev and Benavidez put himself in position, I think rightfully, to challenge the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol when they're done. It could be 2 fights, it could be 3. If Beterbiev wins again, it probably will only be 2. But I do think Morrell and Benavidez and Morrell, I think Yard and Boatsi, Joshua Boatsi and Anthony Yard should all fight each other. And I do think the Beterbiev and Bivol are just a little level above all of the others in the division. I think Benavidez would have been handled by Bivol and Beterbiev, and I think Morrell would as well. They won't forgive me for saying it, but obviously Boatsi's already lost. Yard's already lost to Beterbiev, and we'll see when Boatsi goes in against Callum Smith, who's also lost to Beterbiev, what he's got against Callum Smith when they meet on February the 22nd in Riyadh. But it's a great division. And Canelo, for me, is not a light heavyweight. So if he doesn't end up fighting Benavidez, it's not the end of the world.
Speaking of Canelo, we have seen reports from the Ring magazine that him versus Terence Crawford is targeted for September. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I love it. Vegas, September. Spoke about it with Sean Porter earlier. Obviously, fought Terence Crawford, the only guy to stop him in his entire career, at the end of his career. And he said he's just different level. He's different level. There's something in his eyes. There's something in his physicality, his mentality that's different to all the rest. It's a very tough fight for Crawford, but he's good enough to beat Canelo. But he's got to, I think, try and employ, even though he's mainly southpaw and can switch, try and employ 1-2 attacks and movement and frustrate Canelo in the fight. It's a terrific fight. Crawford's smart enough to not get hurt in that fight and stay in there and mirror his opponents like in the past, like people like Andre Ward have. And it was interesting speaking to Showtime's Sean Porter today with his take on Crawford, because he had a very, very good career. He faced Kell Brook on his best night ever. It's a fascinating show when it comes out for TalkSport, but I think it's unmissable, Canelo and Crawford, probably in Vegas in September. It's going to be massive.
Just my last one. A report has come out from The Sun that Chris Eubank Sr. Is saying that Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn will not happen and that the fight breaks the rules. What did you make of this report from The Sun?
Is that Chris Eubank Sr.'s own little podcast that's reported from?
The Sun have wrote the report.
Has that just come out?
Yeah, it's on the speaking on the Call Chris Eubank YouTube channel. He said, "My answer is no. The fight will not happen, not because of anything other than it breaks the rules."
Well, he's talking about the weights, the rehydration clause again, then, isn't he? Chris Eubank Sr. has expressed concern about his son fighting Conor Benn. and boiling down in weight and not being able to rehydrate properly and having concerns about him. And I completely get that as a father, knows the sport inside out. I sincerely hope that this fight doesn't get pulled. Um, I'm just penning a piece for them on Ring Magazine, actually, believe it or not. So I hope it doesn't get pulled because that's my evening, finishing that story on them. But in a very personal, selfish way, I hope we're going to get this fight now because I think a lot of people are looking forward to it. Obviously, tickets aren't on sale yet. We haven't had a press conference for it yet. We're only in the first week in February. It's 10 weeks away, isn't it? 11 weeks away. So let's hope it does go ahead. What do I make of it? That senior being a father and showing and carrying the responsibilities he has for his son. He's lost one son already tragically. And I do think he has concerns about his son's health.
Well, Gareth, I'm going to call it there. Thank you very much for your time as always, and I look forward to catching up again next week.
You're welcome. Cheers, Josh.